Welcome back, dear participants and experts. We continue with our session this morning, the technology model for traceability and transparency and due diligence in the textile and leather value chains. We have discussed the why blockchain is instrumental to advance traceability and transparency. We presented with partners, brands and companies and service providers the use case for the cotton blockchain pilot. And now we are moving to the second part of the morning, and are going to explore more on how to onboard partners, how to define rules of collaboration for partners engaging in a blockchain pilot. And we are going to discuss how to manage data, as we have seen that data privacy, data security are definitely a very sensitive aspect to be addressed. And we are also going to discuss the role of physical markers as the digital and physical traceability are very important to connect. We are doing that with two members of the UNECE project team, Piera Francesca Solinas and Claudia di Bernardino. So please on stage, and the floor is yours. Just a reminder about Q&A and comments that can be shared on the event platform and will be addressed by the panelists and speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And good morning, everybody. Maria Teresa already summarized the contents of this the second part of the session of Module 8. Basically, we will discuss how the project developed methodologies and tools for collaboration and data management, the role of physical markers, and we will also listen to the voice of the industry. To do so, we have today Claudia, my colleague, that she's been part of so many already interventions and modules, to have the legal part for the data management and the onboarding of partners. We have Gediminas, who is the co-founder of Haelixa, and we have two representatives of the textile industry and project partner, Mr. Enrico Marzoli, Vice President of Filmar Group, and Judith Meyer for web. Welcome to, we have Mr. Marzoli will be joining online, and Gediminas and Judith are here with us. So Claudia explained earlier the kind of documents in the previous session, the kinds of documents that partners have collected for traceability and transparency, and in the pilots to prove, let's say, their claims on cotton. But also Stefano gave us a flavor of the challenges that partners encounter in collecting the documentation and in onboarding the partners. So now let's focus a little bit more to understand the real level of complexity. In this slide, you can see the stakeholders that are associated with the textile value chain. And of course, we already extensively discussed about how the textile value chain is long, complex, and fragmented. Of course, the stakeholders involved are many, given the length and the complexity of the value chain, and they have different functions. They cover different functions in the value chain. We have those that are involved with the direct activities, such as farmers, ginners, manufacturers, and we have other stakeholders that instead are, let's say, involved and they have an overarching role on the textile value chain, on the cotton value chain in particular, such as governments, regulators, certification entities, and they can, of course, influence the whole value chain with their regulations. And we have also other entities that they can transfer instead knowledge to the different parts of the value chain, such as education, academia, or education institutions, and so on. Another important features of stakeholders along the textile value chain is that many big part of the industry involved are small and medium enterprises, and this, of course, adds another layer of complexity. So many partners, different roles, different business models, and another layer is that the textile value chain is across the globe, basically. So we have many countries involved, and also, I would say, different, of course, cultures, languages, which poses another additional, layer of complexity. So here you see the countries that are mostly involved in the textile value chain. We have, of course, China, which is predominant on fiber production and on yarn and fabric production, and then we have a set of different countries in the textile production. And in the textile, let's say, bleaching, dyeing, and finishing, and assembly. And then we have Europe and North America that they have a major role in the consumption phase. So again, onboarding different partners along the value chain from farmers to brands and retailers is a very long journey, and also adopting common rules to exchange documents and data is not an easy task. Having seen this fragmentation and this, let's say, involvement of so many countries brings about another important topic, which has been highlighted very well yesterday by the colleague, the representative of the Inditex group. They mentioned, she well explained, that they are developing a TT, traceability and transparency strategy. And to do so, they are including in their teams clusters that are located and that they are in the countries where they operate with local people. This is to mention and to underscore the importance of cultural awareness also. Because when we are dealing with so many different countries and different cultures, of course, teams involved in traceability and transparency, they need education training, but also cultural awareness, because the more we know about the people we deal with, this seems a very common sense, but sometimes really we don't take it into consideration. So apart from knowledge, from logistic capability, we also need cultural awareness. So again, education and enhancing training, that has been one of the points that we have made all along the different modules, comes back again as an important part for the teams involved in the companies for the development of the corporate strategies for this. So now, I would like to invite Claudia to provide you with an overview of the tools that the project has developed, the rules for collaboration that the project has developed for onboarding partners. Claudia, the floor is yours, and you have already, yeah?
Yes, thank you very much. Hello, everyone, again. So, too fast, probably. It is not working, sorry.
No, the other one, the other side, Claudia. Are you going back?
Yeah, I'm going back.
Okay.
Okay, great. No. Perfect. Okay, yes. I will address now the rules of collaboration and the data management within the project, because we found important to develop a framework of cooperation. And why this framework of cooperation was needed? Well, because we needed to define and organize the collaboration with several partners, and also because we need to understand how and why data are collected. Was needed this framework to protect the sharing of data and to manage and coordinate the entire community. That's because an effective cooperation depends on an open and regular exchange of information and data and periodic consultation for planning, for implementing, and for achieving the outcomes of collaboration activities. And so we really thought it was important to have this framework of cooperation and understanding in place in order to be really all on the same page. The result of this framework was the creation of two documents, the rules book on data management and the MOU. We decided to develop documents in order really to set the data sharing, the data collection, because this also, of course, depends on the type of data that is being shared, the agency that provides the data, the organization that provides the data. So we carefully consider this aspect while developing these documents. They were instruments for the project. So I would like to go a little bit more in deep to let you understand how the cooperation works within the pilot project. So here you can see the areas of cooperation, a list of the main area of activities that serve to accomplish the main objectives that the pilot has to demonstrate end-to-end traceability and transparency of cotton products and processes. And in particular, the cooperation we have been cooperating for identifying the sustainability claims and key data entities to be collected and exchanged, selecting relevant products and material, value chain actor, sharing the information, the traceability and transparency information, the evidences, the documents, that was mentioned before by Piera, and also the cooperation was about showing the sustainability performance of product, process, and facilities, and undertaking and fostering the collaboration within the relevant value chain actors. As we saw earlier, in the earlier sector, there are so many business partners, brands, suppliers, so it's really important that there's collaboration needed. It was important to have a common agreement on how to deal with all these many value chain actors. Now, how is organized the cooperation? First of all the activities related to this cooperation was carried out and are carried out on the basis of the UNECE project documents, all the project that you find available online. And the cooperation, it is again fundamental to achieve the outcomes. So here you find what we provide to the partners also in order to support them in the development of their use cases. So a guidance and technical advice on the implementation of the pilot activities was provided by the UNECE project team. The approach and the standard for the collection and exchange of traceability and transparency information, and once again, the access to the blockchain solution, as mentioned before by Andrea, this is an open source solution. So there were the possibility to access to the solution for the collection and exchange of traceability and transparency information. And this organization, the whole cooperation happened through meetings, workshop, as the one we're doing today, training, to understand the approach, the standard, and the activities. So I think this is a framework that give you an overview of how the cooperation within the pilot project happened among the partners and also with us. And here, the tools for the cooperation, we mentioned them, but I would like to underline once again that the data collection, data sharing, use of data represent a fundamental aspect of our collaboration and of this collaboration in order to achieve the objective of the pilot. So the approach to the data management is actually strictly linked to the claim that the company wants to make and the type of information included in the claim. And so the type of evidence, the verification criteria that is behind the claim and that can support the claim. So we created this standardized approach on sustainability claim for the identification of claims. And this is really strictly linked, once again, to the data management. That's why in this slide you can see the two tools that we put in place, the guidelines on claims to support the partners in the development of their claims, and the traceability and transparency matrix template that enable the partners to collect the data along the value chain in a very organized, let's say, way and useful way. As before said by Isabella. And here, just to summarize the solution that we have developed within the pilot project to realize this framework of cooperation. There was this rules book on data management and on rules for collaboration, where it's possible to find information about how data management happen within the pilot. So what data are collected, how they are collected, how they're used, and once again, which are the type of claims, the type of evidences, and the end-of-life policies that we've been also included. And why this is so important, because anytime we have more partners that join a project altogether, different partners, different companies, they need to make agreement on how to interact with each other, how to collaborate. So it's very important to put in place rules such as the one that we create. So this is a tool that we create in this project, but it actually is a tool for the industry. And once again, it's open source. So that means that really this is something that something that involves many different value chain partners, it is possible to connect them having behind rules, clear and efficient rules on how to manage the collaboration. And I will leave you now the floor, Piera.
Thank you, Claudia. As a matter of fact, today we had, for instance, partners that went on this point, and Stefano told us very clearly that one of the points, and I guess also our partners from the industry will make the same point, one of the main difficulties is the data sharing and knowing how to manage data among partners. So, of course, very important this point, and very important the development of the rules book by the project. That is an open source document, as Claudia mentioned, that all partners and whoever is interested in developing a corporate strategy can check and utilize as a guide. Thank you very much, Claudia. We will see if we have questions eventually from the audience related to your part. And now I would like to give the floor to Gediminas so that he can present the role of physical makers improving origin of raw material and products. Gediminas, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Piera. So when we think about supply chain transparency solutions, you would usually think about ERPs, you would think about blockchain or standards and the associated certifications. So usually in the cases where the supply chain is vertically integrated, the ERP system can work quite well, whereas if the parties are more independent, standards and the transaction certificates become more important. And blockchain has emerged also as a very powerful tool to store the supply chain information, first to collect and then to store that information in a way that is immutable, that is distributed and cannot be tampered with. And we find it very important that the blockchain adds this trust with the information reliability across the whole supply chain. But the challenge with the blockchain on its own is that it is only as good as the data that you put into the blockchain. So let's say in case, if we have a look at this slide, in case the fiber is swapped or blended at one of the steps of the supply chain. So it could be at a gin, spinning mill, or even at a later stage. If the yarn is swapped, the blockchain will still have all the transformations entered, all the transaction certificates entered, and blockchain would appear completely proving the origin of the product, yet the finished product that you would get might not necessarily have the same identity. So the identity preservation would be lost. And to ensure that this data on the blockchain, on the digital interface is linked to the physical material, you actually need to connect it somehow. So you need to connect the digital world that is essentially distributed all around the world to the physical item in a very specific location. It could be a spinning mill in Egypt or a weaver in Turkey or whatnot. And that's what we do at Haelixa. So we design DNA markers that allow connecting the digital data to the fiber itself. And we do this by generating a unique DNA code that corresponds to a specific entry on the blockchain. So it could be an entry of the batch of product of fiber. It could be at any later stage as well. And we these unique DNA codes are then applied as early as possible in the supply chain. So in the case of cotton, that could be at a farm, at a gin, or at a spinning mill. And once they are applied as a spray, from that point on, the cotton is marked in a very unique way and cannot be tampered with. So you cannot remove this code, you cannot change this code, it's there forever. And then at any later point throughout the whole supply chain, so whether it's on yarn, fabric, or finished garment, you can read out this DNA code using reliable forensic DNA analysis technique. Yet the technique is quite simple. And what you get is a certificate of analysis, which you then upload on the blockchain to verify that the identity of the product is still the same as it has been marked at a gin, spinning mill, or any other spot. And we see that this combination of physical and digital traceability really enables you to enhance the quality of the data on the blockchain and enables you to have the perfect combination of blockchain being immutable, accessible anywhere, from anywhere in the world, and linking this complete set of data about the supply chain to the actual physical item somewhere on the ground. And within the UNECE, we have piloted this combination of the UNECE blockchain and the Haelixa DNA tracing technology to make sure the identity is preserved throughout the whole supply chain. And we are still piloting on a number of the supply chains, but we already have the first results, and I'm really happy to share them with you. So how this worked is we wanted to prove the origin claims connected to the recycled material, recycled fiber. So what we have done is we marked the spinning waste, the combing waste actually, at a spinning mill in Egypt. And this waste was marked with a unique DNA code that was then uploaded on the blockchain. So it was associated with a specific batch of recycled fiber. And then the waste was spun into yarn. We have verified that the yarn still contained the same DNA code. So what happens very often is that if you spin material in a continuous process, you might lose the identity throughout the spinning. And then once you produce the yarn, you are not sure which exact batch is coming from that specific origin. And by using DNA analysis, we could actually verify that the yarn is specifically originating from that batch that we marked. So it has been the combing waste that was produced in the yarn. And then this yarn went to a knitter. The knitter produced the socks. And what we did then again, we have analyzed the DNA content in the finished socks. And we could, at that point, again, confirm the DNA originating from that spinning material, from that spinning waste. And that allowed us to make a claim to the end consumer in combination with all the transaction documents that were on the blockchain. So we uploaded the certificate of analysis of DNA in combination with all the other documents, and that allowed us to make a claim to the end consumer about the origin of the material, in this case being the recycled fiber. And this has been the first pilot that has been very successful on the Filmar supply chain, and we are still working on a few others.
Thank you very much, Gediminas. Thank you. We have a couple of questions for you. So if I wanted to go back on the slide that he just presented. Yes, if you can please just take me back to the slide that Gediminas showed us. Just I wanted to make the point because in this slide you showed us how a project partner piloted the DNA tracer on basically production waste, correct? Right. So I found it very interesting because basically this is the proof also about a circular approach in applying the DNA tracer. We understood also from the project partners, the other one please, the last one of Gediminas, the blue one, yes. We also understood from the partner that, that it was very important for them to prove the origin of this material because there is no certification, because the GRS certifies only recycled, while this is a production waste that in any case is repurposed. I mean, it is diverted from landfill because it would have been ending up in landfill, and instead used as an input to, for a new product. And of course, this input that is diverted and is repurposed will lower the environmental impact of the product. So how do you think, do you have many of these examples, many of these applications with a circular approach? And then Gediminas, if you can tell us also in what other parts of a normal or a linear value chain you usually, it is usually applied, the DNA marker that you are putting in on the market.
Right, so the DNA markers can be applied on any synthetic or natural fiber. It doesn't really matter what fiber you use. And we try to apply it as early as possible in the supply chain. So if you think about linear supply chains, we would apply it as early as the fiber is produced. We do apply it on the fiber, and we do it as early as possible to be able to prove as many steps of the supply chain as possible. So if you would only apply it at a spinning mill, then you have no verification that it's still the same material coming from a gin or a farm, and the same for any other material that is natural, let's say wool or silk. In terms of circular supply chains, we see actually much more demand at the moment for proving the circularity claims, indeed connected to what you just said, with the certification systems on one hand still catching up, with how exactly you have to declare it, and with the potential for fraud in those cases, because recycled material is really a trendy topic at the moment. And we also see that it is also easier to integrate such a new solution in a new supply chain. So if you are setting up something new, if you are setting up a recycled supply chain, why not set it up from the beginning as transparent as you can make it?
Thank you. So you already spoke about the benefits of using physical traceability. Is there something else that you want to add? Please, Gediminas, apart from what you already told us.
Yeah, so I think here there are 2 points. I think by now we all know why we need traceability in general. So what does physical traceability add? And first, physical traceability adds the identity preservation that I mentioned to you before. We can really be sure that throughout the whole supply chain, the material has not been mixed. That is something that digital traceability can ensure if all the information is good and there is no mixing up happening, but it doesn't guarantee that. Physical traceability does guarantee that. And I think that's really the key point to focus on.
So an integration of the two systems, digital and physical traceability, can really improve also the credibility of what we are claiming on our products. Did you experience challenges on getting new partners on board? And how do you convince partners that physical traceability could be the solution to prove origin?
Right, so here I think the main challenge is the stakeholder alignment. If you think about the motivation for traceability, it's usually coming relatively far down the stream. So it comes from the brands, governments, and consumers. And the material producers, the farmers, the ginners, the spinners, they might have quite different motivations and quite a different understanding what traceability means to them as well. So it's aligning all these partners is not always straightforward. When one party is demanding it, but we have to start in the beginning of the supply chain to prove the traceability throughout all these steps. So that's, I think, one big challenge. The second challenge is the volatility of the supply chain. So suppliers change from one year to another year, and if you set up a very nice system that we also have discussed before, how do you scale this up in case your suppliers change? In case suddenly next year you have to implement it on a completely different supply chain. Those we see as challenges that we have to work on standardizing, educating different parties to make it easy to implement the solution and make it interoperable between the different solutions.
Thank you very much, Gediminas. Claudia, you have questions for Gediminas?
No, a comment that interoperability,
yes.
we have heard this word a lot. That's definitely a key word to keep in mind, and we need to work on that.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you. Judith, do you have any question for Gediminas?
No, I'm just happy he's here because we're kind of connected with our two presentations, so that's perfect.
Very good. So I guess we can now introduce Mr. Marzoli, Mr. Enrico, that is connected with us online. Yes, yes. Good morning, Enrico.
Mr. Solinas.
Yes, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
And thank you for being with us.
I cannot join there. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. We can see you very well. So it's very good to have project partners here from the textile industry. We have been having both brands, retailers, and textile manufacturers. And today, indeed, we had Mr. Albini this morning, who spoke about his own experience in the project. And we have you from Filmar Group, and we have Judith Meyer from Weba. So, Mr. Enrico, please, we would like you to start with your own presentation, so to illustrate and to show us what Filmar does, and basically what has been your participation and what is your interest in traceability and transparency, and how the market is requesting please, yes, you can go ahead.
Yes, sure. Let me introduce first very quickly the Filmar, because I don't think everybody knows Filmar. And we are quite at the beginning of the value chain, because actually we produce and sell dyed yarn, mainly processed with the selected cottons, and we are using mainly Egyptian cottons, selected Egyptian cottons, but also we sell also other yarn blended with the cashmere silk and so on. We are operating in textile business for more than 60 years, and we are selling our product to flat or circular knitters, socks producer, or knitters. We achieve an export now that is more than 50% of our production, and we are selling our product, let's say, all over the world. And as written here, the other page, please. Next, please. You will find some information about. Okay. And we aim at excellence in every aspect of our work, from raw materials to the end users, and we are committed to support a more sustainable fashion. Next, please. Okay. Our vision is to advance sustainability of fashion brands product by collaborating with upstream and downstream companies of our supply chain to innovative business model, as we will see later. We are communicating to end users a new way to do fashion business by being traceable and transparent. Next, please. Our mission is to produce and sell high quality yarn for best brands in the world. We select precious raw materials and transform them with innovative production system that respect the environment, people, and their health. Here you will find, next please. You will find some other numbers of Filmar, where you see that we have 50,000 square meters of production area, is because actually we have two plants. One in Italy. We are located in Brescia, and the production, the Italian hub is mainly a distribution hub for end product. We have also an hub for transformation of semi-finished product, and then we process some special yarn blended and so on. While the other factory we have is located in Egypt, close to Alexandria. It's a fully integrated production hub. We start from cotton fibers, then we have spinning mill, and we use mainly Egyptian cotton that we purchase locally, up to dyeing process. We have package dyeing and mercerized dyeing. I would like to tell also that we own the brand Filo Scozia that belongs to us, and one, okay. The other numbers I would like to comment is concerning the availability of stock service. We have more than 2,000 colors available in stock service. And the last comment is concerning our turnover, that fortunately this year we've seen that we are going back to the same turnover 2018 after 2020 that was quite complicated for everybody. Next, please. Here we will find you will find our value chain that starts from cotton seeds. You will see all the, let's say, flowers and so on the cotton. Next. And from the fiber, we produce yarn for fashion. Here you will find some picture about our factory. You will see the combing, carding, combing. You will see the dye house and some other picture about the factory, the Egyptian factory. Next. Cotton for Life. Cotton for Life is a program, is a concrete example of how Filmar controls all the supply chain. This program promotes sustainability of cotton, mainly Egyptian cotton, supply chain through the following, next please, to the following action plan. We follow all the, let's say, starting from growing this organic ELS external staple cotton, using, of course, using natural composting, some chemical fertilizer, pesticide, reducing water consumption, rotating crops. But also we have a social action concerning social responsibility action. We think that the social and ethical approaches protecting people along the value chain with emphasis on decent salaries, women empowerment, and child protection. And then the third part of this project of Cotton for Life project is concerning the education and training, because we promote training and employability of young people. We have practically we have in Marnile young people for training and this training concerning Cotton for Life, let's say, project. Next, please. We support the Sustainable Development Goal, the SDGs, and we develop our sustainability strategy and action plans based on the analysis of our supply chain. So after the analysis of our supply chain, we arrive to the following, these, let's say, global goals that you find. Next, please. A few years ago, we started a digital transformation process in Filmar to respond to external demands, but also internal strategies. Concerning external demands, they are mainly linked to the change in consumer values and customer requests for traceability and transparency. We need also of increased control of supply chain for risk mitigation, especially now, you know, everybody knows about the difficulties now to find any kind of raw materials, not only in textile business, but for example, concerning textile business now is very difficult first to find raw materials and to receive them in the right time, and also the prices has increased a lot. So this is a quite big problem in our let's say business. And the third is concerning let's say the third comment on the digital transformation is the lean approach for waste reduction and circularity. Next, please. The process of digital transformation starts from our digitalized and automated logistic hub. This hub has very high performances of inbound and inbound logistics. We can handle per day more than 100,000 kg of yarn. We can store more than 1 million kg yarn. And thanks to this automated logistic hub, we reduce by 60% the shipping mistakes, and we eliminate mistakes concerning preparation of raw materials. Of course, we reduce also CO2 emission thanks to solar panel. The second step concerning our digital transformation is relative to digitalization and lean approach, because Filmar is also a lean manufacturer. We adopt this lean manufacturer, let's say, system way of work that allow us to control production line, optimize production flows to reduce production waste. Next, please. We think that blockchain is a part of our digital transformation. At the beginning, you will find in a normal definition, easy definition about blockchain. But in our case, our digital transformation process aims at creating a unique digital identity for every product, a digital twin, to trace it from raw materials upwards. We started to do so in the framework of UNECE project, where we and our value chain partner were given the possibility to upload the data on the blockchain platform. At the moment, we have two pilot projects of blockchain. In the afternoon, I think that Mr. Coretti will explain you better how to load, how it works, the platform. I would like just to explain a little bit something about these two articles. The first one is our, let's see, NE 60x2 Nilo, 60x2 Zero, produced with Giza 92 organic cotton that is coming from our Cotton for Life initiative. And in the platform, we load, the first one is concerning the origin of the cotton. Next, please. Then we load data and documents concerning use of chemicals. And the third one, next, please. We load also fiber content concerning, let's say, the fibers and the kind of cotton we use. This is the first, let's say, project still open. And the second one is, next, please. The second one is an example of traceability with integration of a physical DNA marker. In this case, we produce, let's say, one final count that is NE 30x1, in which half, 50% is virgin cotton. The other 50% is repurposed cotton, recycled cotton, let's say. And we apply on this 50% of repurposed cotton, this DNA market provided by Haelixa. After that, we spin this yarn, these cottons. We spin these cottons, and we send to Haelixa, let's say, the yarn for final approval. At the same time, we send some sample of this yarn to one of our customer. We see in the afternoon, that is Calcificio Bonadei. He produced some socks and he sent also for final approval. At the end, the final result of this, let's say, blockchain project is our article EcoLoop, and in which we uploaded the data on the platform to the market product with a traceable origin and with a verified sustainable claim. So this is the final, let's say, the result of our second blockchain project that is running right now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marzoli, and for the very detailed presentation about the strategy, the sustainability strategy that your group is carrying on, and also for the details of the two pilots that Filmar has been implementing within the UNECE project. So just for reconnecting the dots, the last one you showed us is the one that Gediminas hinted at before. The one, basically, the DNA applied to the production waste of your combing processes. So thank you very much. I would now, before the questions, give the floor to Mrs. Judith from Weber Group so that she can illustrate and tell us about her company, the company she's working for, and then we go with the questions to Mr. Marzoli and the audience and our guests. Please, Judith, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Piera. Thank you also for having me spontaneously, actually. So I appreciate that very much to get the opportunity to say a few words about Weber. Okay, perfect. So Weber is a weaving mill located in Switzerland with own production in Egypt. And we've been into sustainability and transparency, traceability for quite some time already. and also have our own tool set that we use for communicating with our customers. And just in a nutshell, we produce fabrics for shirting and blouses, and we've been in the project for, it seems like forever. So since the beginning, we've been part of it and gone through with all the ups and downs, and also with the data collection and everything that was connected to it with all the documents. So that was a very interesting ride, and we're very glad to be part of it. And also, it's, as I said, perfect that Gediminas is right here next to me. We've been conducting a pilot project on the DNA marker with Haelixa in 2019 to have some sort of a proof of concept for our fabric production. And today I'll show a little bit how we're bringing all this together now in one, again, project to have the Haelixa and the blockchain come together. So basically, this is this, which you can see here in the slide. We have this typical supply chain. As for a weaver, we start from the farm, ginning, spinning, dyeing, weaving, finishing. Then we kind of have a little separation line, because that's all that is within our reach. And then we have basically the next steps that are beyond our control. So that would be sewing, and again, then the customer, which usually is a brand for us. So here I indicated the different certifications that travel along the way, as well as where we're starting with the Haelixa DNA marker. So this is a project that is actually real. We're doing this at the moment, as you can see with the timeline below. We started negotiating with one of our customers in August on how to create the project, the scope, the materials selected, the actual designs that needed to be selected to determine the supply chain and the suppliers that would be involved in the end, because as we heard yesterday, it does make a difference if we have a yarn-dyed fabric or if we have a piece-dyed fabric, so that would be dyeing in a different location. So the sample selected determine the supply chain, and then again determines which suppliers need to be onboarded in the process to get to know the supply chain, the blockchain, pardon me, and also the who needs to be in touch with Haelixa to get training on how to use the DNA marker, how to actually conduct the spraying and sample picking for testing again. So what we have here, we're using this on a claim which is organic cotton origin. So luckily, we still got some organic cotton, which is not, well, actually quite rare at the moment, because everyone knows organic cotton is very rare at the moment. So we're lucky in this one. And so for now, we don't go to the farm level in the ginning, because that has happened already. But we're now at the spinning. Actually, in this September, October, we are marking the cotton with the DNA marker, and then move into bulk production with the spinning. And parallel, we have the onboarding of all the suppliers to get to know the blockchain system, and to become aware of which documentation will be required and how to use it actually, so that actually that runs smoothly afterwards. And then we'll have the samples picked, sent to Haelixa to test for the DNA marker, and then the yarn moves quite along to us, to the weaving part. Parts of it will be dyed first, and then we'll pick samples every time again and have it tested for the marker, so we can make sure that actually the material that has been marked at the spinning mill becomes the one that is transformed into the fabric. So that moves along the way. And the good thing, actually the best thing about it is, if we move further down the timeline, we'll have a ready-made shirt in stores for the spring-summer collection. And that's actually pretty awesome, because people can go to a store and actually buy what you can see here now, in theory, in the slide.
About the timing that you mentioned, I guess Maria Teresa also discussed about this and told us that most probably the cotton pilot will be extended somehow for a certain period. So probably you will have the chance, we all will have the chance to see maybe the concrete result of all the efforts of the project on onboarding partners, creating supply chains that are traceable and transparent for whatever we are claiming, and then seeing the product maybe in the shops. It has been very good also to listen from Mr. Marzoli that they have created already a kind of a product and how do you call it, a color card for their yarn sprayed with the tracer, with the Haelixa tracer. I have a question which came from the audience, Gediminas. Actually, they're asking it to Mr. Marzoli, but I guess from reading the content that is more to be addressed to you because it's a technical question about your product. So Nino from ESMOD says, for the non-specialist among us, would you tell us how and from what the DNA markers are produced? So what is the material that the water-based, let's say, solution that you are using? And then he says also, what allows this product to adhere to materials and stay in spite of washing and further treatments? Does it wear off over time and become less legible? Thank you. This is the question.
All right, there's a lot of questions. So
first of all, what is made of?
Yes, so the DNA for us is just a barcode. Just like each of us has a unique DNA code, we can design a unique DNA code for every fiber. And how it works is we design it, and then it's chemically produced. So it's a chemical process. It's essentially a chemical way to produce a biological substance like DNA that you otherwise would eat in a tomato. And then once it's applied on the fiber, it sticks through electrostatic interaction. So it attaches on the fiber surface, and then you cannot really wash it away. We have tested that up to 30 household washes. And we know that, so even after you finish the whole production, you go through the chemical processing, you can still wash it at home and we would still be able to verify it.
Good. So the other, we said that you answered also to adheres to material in spite of washing, and does it wear off over time? And I guess your answer is...
So the data we have is up to 30 household washes, and up to that point we can detect it.
You said 30?
Yeah. And up to then, we can still detect it. We haven't checked beyond that, potentially through the whole life cycle and recycling. You could have a look at that as well, but we have not tested that yet.
But now you tested only about around 30 washing. Okay. So Nino, listening from online, let us know if we answered your question. If you feel that you need more details, please just write in the chat and let us know. Now, I don't know if there are questions from the audience for our guests here, but I would like to ask Mr. Marzoli some questions. Maybe if you can, yes, he's coming back with us. If you can put it back on the screen, yes. So we spoke before, Mr. Marzoli, about the difficulties that you are experiencing on onboarding stakeholders and partners. We also said that even if it's an effort, you need to do it to have a credible, strategy and action plan on traceability and transparency. Can you tell us your experience? What was the main challenge, if any, on doing this exercise with the UNECE project, and if this project has helped you in, having also a structure for your work, please.
Absolutely. First of all, I think that onboarding partners now is fundamental. We cannot talk anymore about suppliers. We have to talk about partners now. During the years, Filmar started, let's say, a selection of reliable partners in terms of quality of the cotton, respect of the contract, shipping on time, and above all, respect of social and environmental standards. Now I understand how was important this selection during a period of tension, as I explained before, and problems on raw materials. to have now reliable partner is absolutely important and fundamental. Our partner now are respecting contracts, and Filmar is doing the same with his own customer. And when I say that they are respecting contract, this can be a big problem now in this time of real tension on a raw material, the purchasing of raw materials. But even if you are talking about top partners, the main challenge, in my opinion, is to distill from them all the information related to the supply chain of their product. I tell you, for example, we started a few years ago the collection of documents for our product, and we sent to this partner a detailed list of questions related, for example, to the type of cotton they use, the cultivation area, the ginning mill, and so on. The reality, unfortunately, is that at the end, they gave no answer, or they gave just a partial answer. The impression I had is that maybe they consider their own supply chain a sort of secret that cannot be revealed. So one of the main challenge now is to convince that the market has changed, and they have to share information with the supply chain. In my opinion, I think that this change can happen only if the top brands and big fashion companies start a pull action from the end of the value chain. In this case, we will have strong reasons to ask documentation to our suppliers for products. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Enrico. Yes, this is the point also that Mr. Albini made this morning about the fact that there is a very big difficulty, of course, to exchange data and to receive documentation from suppliers, and that if, whenever, we have seen the example of Vivienne Westwood, a brand, or anyway, at the end of the value chain, there is a pull demand for traceability and transparency, the things appear to be a little bit easier. Of course, I guess that the developments in traceability and transparency will come when we get used in having action plans that allow us to do the traceability and the transparency by the time we are producing things and non-ex post, because it's very difficult to trace, as we have done now, for a pilot ex post, going back for something that we were not planning to trace. Of course, we didn't have any standard in place when the materials were purchased, and so I guess it will be much easier when companies have an action plan that allows them time by time to trace and track every single step and documentation related to the material they want to trace. So again, importance of having a pull from the end of the value chain so that all suppliers are motivated in maintaining also the contracts that they have with big brands. This could be a good motivation. Another thing that Mr. Marzoli pointed at is that that has been said several times during the modules, the past modules, and in particular by Virginia, that traceability and transparency is not only for sustainability, it's also for risk management. And it's very important for risk management, because at the end of the day, we have seen the disruption of the supply chains, the value chain during the COVID period. And of course, whoever was on top of his supply chain and was already monitoring and controlling the supply chain and having stable relations and solid relations, most probably had less problems than others. Another question that I wanted to ask you, and then Judith, I will go back to you with the more or less same questions to Enrico, is what is the future? I mean, does he see a future for the blockchain in the fashion industry? We have asked it also to Mr. Stefano Albini this morning. And how do you see it? How do you see this the blockchain working for the future, for the, let's say, transparent future of the fashion industry? Enrico, are you still there? Yes, he's still there.
Yeah, sure. No, yeah, before I was explaining, I started explaining a little bit concerning our, let's say, project of digital transformation. And this project of digital transformation involve also customers. So we decided to do like a real interview with around 30 customers, totally different, the one from the others. I mean, big, small, Italian, foreigners, knitters, socks producer, digitalized, not digitalized. The result of this interview show that the main user requirement, really the main and the needs of our customer are mainly oriented towards sustainability, supported by traceability and transparency. They want to be sure about the origin of the cotton, but not only, they want to be sure also about the following processes after, and so not only the cotton, but also the processes, the full processes of the yarn. There is now a famous case concerning, for example, the Xinjiang cotton that has been banned by United States, and this it was a real big problem. So our customer, what they told us, I mean, they want to be totally transparent with their final customer about their own claims to the customer. So coming to your question, I think that the blockchain, in my opinion, is the only one way to have a full certain traceability and transparency of a product. It could be digital with integration of physical marker, of course, but actually I don't see other, let's say, real strict solution to have all the traceability, full traceability. I think we are in a correct way. As I explained before, it's not easy to get information from suppliers. So I want also to be realistic and say that it will take time. I'm confident that we will succeed only if we keep working together and in partnership with our supplier partner, as we said before. I think also that nothing can be done alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Enrico. So again, we go back to the strength of the partnership and the strength of the relations that are created along the supply chain. Claudia, you wanted to ask a question?
No.
No, okay.
No,
so,
I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think we are in time, correct? We are not going over time. So I wanted to ask the same questions to Judith. In particular, onboarding partners, how challenging is it? Is it the same as you know, all your colleagues are mentioning, or you had a specific challenge on onboarding partners? And how do you see the future, I mean, of traceability and transparency? And do you think blockchain could be the solution?
Okay, thank you for the question. We have basically the same challenges as everyone else described before, so I'm not going to go very deep into that. Actually, the one thing is that our suppliers have the interest of, you know, what's happening next. Is this a pilot project, or will there be more? Will our efforts be paid off with longer use of those systems? So that's something that's very interesting to our suppliers, and well, to us as well, obviously. And for the blockchain as such, for us, it's a very interesting project. This is why we have been in it so long as well, and now trying it out in the actual real-life production. We do see a future for the blockchain as soon as we have reached some sort of a critical mass in the market. Because if we are staying the only ones using it, it will be again a jungle of different systems that are up and around. We have seen this with standards and auditing, that we have a lot of different standards and certificates, and the blockchain helps here to streamline that. So if people kind of realize that it will make our daily business easier and faster, more efficient, more reliable, that will certainly help to the tool to grow.
Yeah, so the key is really scale up what the project also is doing, so that we can attract many more in industry partners. I guess the proof of concept that the project will produce will be a very big and a very solid base for industrial scale up of all the solutions that we have been developing, and also with the addition, of course, of all the materials and tools that partners can be availed of. So, I mean, if there are no questions from the audience or no questions from, there are questions from the audience online, let's see. Okay. Is a question addressed to me. Are there within the UNECE project also pilots planned with tracing technology that do not require cooperation on the ground? For instance, micro dust analysis. This could be vital for finding origin in risk areas like Xinjiang region, where authorities are not likely to cooperate. I mean, this also I ask the support of Maria Teresa to ask this question. If we have in the project pilots planned with tracing technology that do not require cooperation on the ground, meaning that we do not want to involve the partners, many governmental partners that could be, let's say, not willing to show what the limitations are. He's hinting at the Xinjiang region.
Okay, sorry.
I don't know if I understood properly the answer, the question. Are there within the UNECE project pilots planned with tracing technologies that do not require cooperation on the ground? I guess no, because of course the cooperation on the ground of all partners is mandatory, as we have been seeing, is necessary in order to define the traceability. So I guess the answer is no. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Can I?
Yes.
I mean, on this, thank you for the question. We have been really working hard to ensure the engagement of partners on the ground, and especially the upstream part of the value chain that is the most challenging to engage. It has been relatively, I would say, easy to get on board the brands and the actors in the manufacturing stage, moving up to the let's say, commodities sector. Therefore, the fiber, the fiber production and processing stage has been much more difficult. It's another industry. It's the agri-food industry. There is certainly a disconnection between the, I would say, the downstream and upstream part of the value chain. Traders and agents are in between. Therefore, yeah, I would say that going up to the tier 4 or the upstream has been hard, but this is what we have trying hard to achieve because, I mean, as part of the approach, the recommendation, the standard, we have developed, we have underlined the importance of covering the entire value chain, really from field to shelf, because we have seen that a lot of the sustainability risks, environmental, social, human rights, health and safety risks are actually lying in that segment of the value chain. So very important to start from there.
And we have seen yesterday very well how all the risks that we have been highlighting impact the different parts of the value chain. Yesterday we have highlighted where are the hotspots, and we have seen that environmental, social, I mean, they go across all the steps of the value chain. So very important to have, from field to shelf involvement in order to be credible. I guess I have another question here, and it is addressed this time to you, Claudia, and to Claudia, but I think it's to Gediminas in the end. What is the cost and the technical requirements for the markers application? Thinking in small and medium enterprises and their capacities and resources. So I guess he's asking about the price for the DNA application, and keeping into consideration that we are discussing about small and medium enterprises at large, I mean, within the textile value chain.
Right, so the cost depends obviously on the volume, and if you are talking about the small volumes, the cost would go up compared to having the scale of operation. And in the end, the rough indication of the cost that we are talking about is a few cents per garment, which again looks very significant in the beginning of the supply chain. If you are talking about fiber production or yarn production, it adds a few percent to the production cost, but on the finished garment, it's a few cents, and it is indeed the key to connect all those parties in the supply chain to not look at it as a cost upstream, but rather the benefit that you get and then downstream. Okay. And the application is very scalable. So the DNA is applied as a spray, and it's applied using either existing spraying equipment on site, or we provide spraying equipment that for small scale is usually also quite low tech, that is not significant in terms of cost.
Thanks, Gediminas. So summarizing, price is affordable, and basically the application is within the capability of small and medium enterprises, because you said that normally it happens within the equipment that the companies already have, without, of course, creating additional layers of, of complexity or cost. Because if you have to put an industry in the industry, of course, is another layer that you have to add also in terms of cost. I have another question, always from Paul of Clean Cloth Campaign for you, Gediminas. Is asking you if markers can be also applied later in life of products, for example, to post-consumer textile waste, so that we can trace responsible recycling.
That's correct. So we can also apply it in the in the textile waste, and in those cases we apply it either before shredding or just after shredding, so on the actual waste, and then from that point on again the cycle begins, and then the material is spun into yarn, and then we can trace it again. So post-consumer waste is a very common application point to prove the recycling claims.
Okay, so there is also a possibility to be used in the post-consumer waste. Very good. So I guess if we have no questions, we can close here. If
we can probably go to the conclusion with our
yes, we have a couple of key takeaways that we've been. Yes, you can go back to the slides, please. Yes.
After this one?
I will. Yeah, I can. Sorry.
No, before. Okay.
Claudia, you want to go want to read them, or I should?
As you like.
It's okay. I'll take this one, and maybe I'll give you the floor later, because it's one of the conclusions for your part. So one of the key takeaways that we have been actually, thinking to propose for this session, that basically summarizes many other sessions, is that onboarding value chain partners for transparency and traceability poses a lot of challenges, and we have seen that. But it seems to be much easier for manufacturers if a pull action starts from brands and retailers, because of course we have to evaluate also that, the effort or the capability of a big brand or a big retailer versus the capability of small manufacturers along the supply chain. So what we have seen, and what from what Stefano told us and from what Enrico told us, and also Judith, we see that, of course, manufacturers are less, they have less of a push towards their suppliers in getting documents. For sure, if brands and retailers need certain documentation to keep the manufacturer in their supplier list, this becomes a very good motivation. So this is the first takeaway that we are proposing. And then the second one is related to the rules for, cooperation.
Takeaway while onboarding partners, while having projects where collaboration is needed, is that it's important to develop and implement a framework of cooperation and understanding. And this really, in order to facilitate business relationship, in order also to analyze, using, sharing data among partners in the right way, because it is fundamental in order to obtain transparency, to share. So I would like to leave with this.
Yeah. Thank you, Claudia. I guess this will be very important for our partners in connection to the tools and the rule book that the project has developed. Yes. In maybe also creating something like consortia and building upon the experience that they have had in the project. The last takeaway is that, of course, integration of physical and digital traceability then captured, of course, on a BC platform can create opportunities to prove origin of raw materials, as we have seen with Gediminas on a linear value chain, but also in circular production processes. We have seen with waste, with recycled materials, and also with post-consumers. So, yes, I guess we concluded with this session. Maria Teresa, if you want to wrap up. Yes, please.
Piera, thank you, Claudia, for leading us through the second part of the morning, and thank you to our panelists, Gediminas from Haelixa, Judith from Weba, and Filmar, the Vice President of Filmar, for being with us. Certainly the perspective of companies and then the startup Haelixa have been extremely enriching for our discussion. So I think the takeaways were already highlighted. I would close it here for our lunch break and mention that for the afternoon with SUPSI University, we are going to show the blockchain system. This morning we have discussed a lot about it, so this afternoon we will actually show how the blockchain system works and how data, information, documents for traceability and transparency once collected actually are then uploaded in the system and provide the visibility and disclosure of the value chain in a blockchain environment. Thank you very much. Thank you to all participants online for your questions, for your comments, for your participation in our event. And we resume at 2. Thank you.